let's get started with some education for us on the screen. So I want to get Verne. Is Verne Harnish around somewhere? Can we bring him in?
Hey, Andy.
Hey, brother, man. How are you?
Good. Hey, I think we're ready now to deal with some big kids.
Some big kids, yeah. If we can catch them early, maybe we don't get so screwed up. We have to work on them.
I know.
I brought this today. So this is the original, one of the original hard copies of Mastering Rockefeller Habits. I got this when I first met you in 2004. You actually signed it for me back in the day. This feels like 100 years ago, but it's not that long ago. And then all of the margins in here in this book are like my notes and everything. This is one of my most prized, but I got a stack of your books over here too, by the way. But wanted to bring you on your core to what we do. I told you once at an event, sitting at a table that had like 1,000 people in the room, I kind of leaned over and said, look, everything that's in this room came from the words that you put in this book at one time. It's hard to realize sometimes how it goes all the way back to, you know, a line or a sentence or a phrase that started right here and has grown into this, you know, multinational worldwide movement of making people better. So first, I want to give you a little bit of gratitude and let you know how much we appreciate you, not just for being here today and sharing your knowledge with all these people, but what you gave us as a foundation for getting started. So thank you very much.
You bet. Well, Andy and you guys, thank you to all the Petra team for taking the message out there and actually making sure it gets executed. You know, nothing happens until somebody does something, and it requires a coach. None of us have ever achieved peak performance, you know, without it. You know, I've got several coaches, and let the audience know I did revise that book. So in 2022, it has been massively revised, the 20th anniversary. Well, that's scaling up, but also revised Mastering the Rockefeller Habits.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So it has been updated to 2022. So we brought it to modern times as things are changing. So let me dig into it. I know you guys wanted me to take a few minutes to kind of share what I'm seeing out there. And I always have to recommend a book. And look, I don't know how you feel about this guy, but I don't think any of us can be in business if we've not read Isaac Walter's his book on Elon Musk. And so he has done an unbelievable job, again, as he did with the Steve Jobs book. I'm plowing through it. I think I'm on page 509. But what you're going to see in that book is what aligns with what I think needs to have been the focus for 2023 going into 2024. I mean, inflation is here. It's expected to stay 5 or 6%. It'll dip a little bit, but through the end of the century. I was just on the stage last week with Herman Simon, the pricing guru. And the reality is, with the pressure on wages, the pressures on pricing, man, if we don't get on top of it, we're going to wake up a year from now and margins are going to be gone. And so as we saw last time I was on the Ascent, I mentioned that the thing I admire about Mark Zuckerberg is his focus. And he named his strategy. And we know you don't have a strategy unless you've named it. And he called it the year of efficiency. So why they were doing everything else, you know, launching Threads and all of the rest, you know, Mark every Thursday on his weekly meeting with his employees is like, hey, but what are you working on? Is that going to make us more efficient? And what's been the result? Well, their last quarterly report that came out the end of July, even the analysts noted that this year of efficiency, they knew his theme. The stock has gone from, not that it matters, money's not everything, but it does allow us to do a lot of good, like our ability to support things like the tiny super heroes. Their market cap's gone from 300 billion at the start of this year to 822 billion this morning. They have added $500 billion to the value of the business. And that really is the thing that we all need to stay focused on, is every decision we make, is it going to add or take away from the value of the thing that you are creating for your customers, your employees, and your community as you begin to give back. And so I encourage you to read every page of Elon Musk's book. Walter Isaacson, who followed him for 2 solid years side by side, is giving us a firsthand look. And the thing that you're mostly going to notice is his intense focus on what he calls the idiot index. And that is looking at every aspect of the business and saying, wait a second, this part of our business model, our business process, our delivery process is idiotic. And he was able to do deep dives and literally find 10x to 30x gains in cost and efficiency. And so with inflation and all of this just literally raging, we have got to double down on efficiency. For instance, you know, they had one valve that they were looking at cost $1,500. They figured out how to do it for $30. He was building the Tesla and he said, hey, why do we have 4 bolts here? Can't we do it with 3? It was that kind of obsession with the idiocy that sneaks into our processes and our jobs that I think we can all grab a hold of and move forward, which is why I think we've got to focus on, again, mention it, gross margin dollars per dollar of payroll. So I was just with a company yesterday. I like to keep my hands in this stuff. And they have had a nice growth rate. They have been adding a lot of people. They've even offshored some of that. But when I actually had them calculate, what is the gross margin dollars you generate in 2021, 2022, and 2023 year to date per dollar of payroll, which is really going to measure how efficient your people are, that number has dropped every single year. And they had never looked at it because their gross margin dollars have increased because of their revenue growth, but they were throwing more people at it, even though they were offshoring with less expensive labor. That's why I said dollar of labor, not just number of people. It was a massive wake-up call. And they have set a theme really to go in and say, all right, what are all the things that we need to be doing to get back into an efficient mode? Which brings me to number 2, if we look at compensation. On Saturday, I had a chance to keynote a major conference of gym owners. And one of my dear friends, Tony Hartle, spun up a company called Planet Tan, sold it for $1 gazillion. By the way, the smart thing he did, and we always talk about the power of influencers, is look, if you're a tan, sun tanning salon, if you're in Dallas, Texas, who would be your best reference? Well, he got the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and all of the other cheer squads. He then said, hey, Mark Cuban, I've got them hanging out here. And he got Mark to be a spokesperson. You bolt those 2 brands onto your brand, and of course, you're going to scale dramatically. We just bolted on Harvard to our brand and Chief Executive Magazine. I'm back to my old MO is when I launched.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got now a media partner again and an academic partner. And so Tony then sold the company, decided to go out and make wine. And as we know, the best way to make $1 million in the wine business is to start with 10 million. And once he had that run, then he said, you know what, I want to jump back in. So he bought his first Crunch Fitness franchise in Austin. In the last 30, by the way, first thing he did is he brought his team in to say, look, I need to get up to speed on scaling up Rockefeller Habits. They've scaled in the last 36 months from 1 to 16 locations with the BHAG of 100 locations. And he just brought on a majority partner. And I can't say exactly the number, but it's a high 9 figures. And this is for a company that's got 16 gymnasiums. The reason I bring this all up is it caused me to reread his book, Selling Sunshine. It's a spectacular execution, thin little execution book. And what I shared with the gym owners and with the company I was with yesterday that can be in more different kind of technology business is one of Tony's rules when he opened up a sun tanning salon or a gym is, if it was expected to need 9 people, he would hire 5, but pay them as if there were 7. So this idea that do you want to have more people paid less, or do you want to have less people paid more? And it worked for him. I actually do think that we've got that much slop inside our processes and the things that we're doing. And so he was literally able to scale with almost half the number of employees, paid 50% more, but he had a lower total labor cost. And that's what I think we need to be focusing on from a compensation perspective. And if you had a chance to read Scaling Up Compensation, I think it's never become more important for you to really dig into both your pricing strategy and your compensation strategy. You are the strategist. And those two decisions can add top and bottom lines by tens, if not hundreds of percent.
Damn.
Yeah, I hear someone talking there. Then what you're going to see is the criticality of having wide pay bands. And that's what we did yesterday with the company. Hey, start in at what might be market, but show people a path to where they can make twice that if they can generate 3 times the productivity. But that means you've got to have the right KPIs, the Moneyball stats, if you would, for each one of those positions, which I think leads to the last topic. I think unless you've been under a rock, you know that AI, it wasn't on anybody's plans back in 2022 for 2023. And then all of a sudden we woke up in February and it has shown up on everyone's plans. But here's the way to think about it. AI is simply an additional employee. And AI's job is to go help every one of your teams become more efficient. And in fact, the company yesterday, and we actually helped negotiate out the deal, is bringing on a new CTO, a CIO and CTO. And his focus is, first and foremost, what are the AI tools that you can provide each one of the employees and teams? They've got 140 that's going to be able to drive efficiency. And we have a very simple way of measuring it. His job, along with the senior team, is how are we going to dramatically improve gross margin dollars per dollar of payroll. And because they can't afford to pay him what he's made at a major company they're recruiting him for, but he wants to move to Miami. He wants to get his family there. He wants to be a part of this beautiful culture that Stephen, the CEO, has created. We're coming in at about 100 grand less, but we're structuring a bonus plan where he can make 150 grand with his practical AI and other IT initiatives, if we can drive up that gross margin dollars per dollar of payroll. So in summary, 3 things. The book to read, Elon Musk. Again, I don't care how you feel about him. His mindset is what I want you to dig into, and how he approaches this idiot index as he looks at every aspect of every part of his business. Number 2, it is time to continue to double down on efficiency. And a big part of that has to do with how you really structure compensation. And I think you want less people paid more, not more people paid less. And AI is the tool to really help you drive that efficiency. In summary, Mark Zuckerberg, good or bad, let go 25% of his workforce, and they haven't lost a beat, a step. And so many of us have really gotten over bloated. We did as well. And I had really one of my first cuts, almost in the history of the company. But it was necessary, I think, to get us back to the efficiencies to prepare us for 2024. So I think with that opening, Andy, let me open it up for any Q&A. I think we've got about 10 minutes.
Yeah, we'll let anybody that would like to kind of unmute and ask Verne a question. I like the piece about creating enterprise value, the slop, the idiot index. Those things are cool. I find in business that we like to go forward, not go backward, and find places that we could actually do stuff better. And that word obsession about it, I think, is really important, because it can feel a little obsessive to go from 4 bolts to 3 bolts when 4 bolts works just fine. Yeah. So that's a piece of it. Anybody have any questions for Verne while we have him here for a few minutes?
I have a question. Hi, Verne. My name is Jessica. So with Musk's idiot index, how do you balance the, kind of going in and getting into the details, into the weeds to find efficiencies versus micromanaging the team, right? How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, there's really 2 reasons that people get frustrated working in a company and get disengaged. Is you're making me work with dumb people, or you're making me do dumb stuff. Seriously. And by the way, they actually see it before you do. So I remember Gene Brown at Citibank. He decided his 3rd quarterly theme was called Bennett. If you see anything wasting money, time, energy, or space, let us know. And what he realized is that his employees, even though he's one of the greatest guys, he's super nice, people are scared of you as leaders, and they don't want to question things, particularly even newbies. They have the freshest eyes, but they just want to get along. They just want to go along to get along. So the most important thing you could do is give people permission, everyone on your team, to surface what they think are dumb stuff that we're doing. But at the same time, the reason you get paid the medium bucks as a leader is for you to do those deep dives into areas of the business where you feel like things are not moving properly. And look, we all thought Steve Jobs was sitting around in lotus position humming. We learned from Walter in his book that every afternoon, Steve, every afternoon except Wednesday, which was his marketing meeting, he would grab a hold of a customer issue and he would track it down through the company at the chagrin of everybody else who might want to claim micromanagement. But remember, micromanagement's looking backwards. Your job is to continue to look forward. And ultimately, if you get rid of the idiocy, everybody benefits. And you may be the only one who has the position to do that, to get the party started. And so that's how I think you have to think about it.
Great question.
All right,
Good.
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica.
Trisha, want to jump in?
Hi, this is actually Jill Plate. And we're just in a conference room, so it shows Trisha's name, but had a quick question. What do you recommend as a good starting point for finding the right AI tools to improve efficiencies for employees? Do you have a favorite book, tools? What do you recommend?
Yes. So there's 3 professors out of University of Toronto. You know, the real epicenter of AI was not Silicon Valley, it was Toronto, University of Toronto. They fed most of Facebook, Google, and all of those AI folks. Anyway, their business school has really taken a practical approach to how you implement. Long story short, they have a new book out called Power and Prediction. And so I'd encourage you to take a look at that. The other one is, and maybe we can put it in the chat, McKinsey, a couple of months ago, put out, and you can Google it, the CEO Guide to AI. And it's only 15 pages. And what it does, it details by function in the business how you can practically apply AI to gain efficiencies. But guess what? And I hope every one of you have it on your phone. I'm in ChatGPT almost every day. You know what? You can just ask ChatGPT. Here is the activity we're doing. Here's the function in my business. Be very specific. And by the way, ChatGPT can even give you the prompts. You can ask ChatGPT, what questions should I be asking around the implementation of AI in this aspect of my business? And it'll tell you the 10 prompts you ought to put in. And if you dig deep enough, it will give you the insights and the answers that you're needing. So that's the power of the tools that we have.
We have too in the chat. We did you remember Amit Nagarajan, right? So
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
Amit well. We just did a workshop with him on AI. It's recorded. We put the link in there for somebody to view, and then we're bringing back Amit for our Ascent event April 25th of next year as an actual interactive speaker, just like this. So we're continuing down that path as well. We got time for maybe one more question. Let's see. Yes, sir.
Is it me?
Yes, sir. Jump in.
Just a cautionary tale about AI, not really necessarily a question, but as with all data, I kind of deal with data and stuff like that. The metadata that you put into your actual data, that's going to be as good as your AI is and everything like that. So if you don't have your current documentation process in order with metadata, I'm talking Word docs, Excel sheets, blah, 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 right? Then your AI data is going to be all kinds of messed up. So
Garbage in, garbage out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's our own brains, let alone with AI. And by the way, next Tuesday, we've got our Scaling Up Summit, Learning Summit, and it's 99 minutes. And one of them is going to be a top AI guru that I also appreciate in her practical sense. We also have one of Harvard's top on strategy. So we've got some good stuff happening next week as well. You know, I'll finish with a couple of quotes from Warren Buffett. You know, Warren looking at inflation, and he sees it, and they're having to deal with it. He said, look, the best hedge against inflation is investing in your own training and development. So this is really the key. And then this year in his letter to the shareholders, he said, you know, one thing that he's learned over his 50 plus years is he's only made about a dozen good decisions, and which meant about one every 4 or 5 years. And so the final story, a good friend of mine, David Risher, just took over since I saw many of you, Lyft. By the way, he helped build Amazon with Jeff Bezos. And the first thing he did 3 days in was get qualified to drive. And the only way you're going to learn any of this stuff, where you need to fix things, how you're going to address, how you're going to innovate with the customer, is not sitting, maturating with your own senior team and self. It's being out in the market. Anyway, he's been driving cars, talking to drivers, talking to customers. And 6 weeks later, maybe you saw the announcement a few weeks ago, he discovered something that women riders would really love to have the opportunity to choose a woman driver. So they added that to their app, and everyone would say, like, duh, the stuff you learn, the idiocy that you see is always like, duh. But that literally put Lyft back on the map a few weeks ago. And everyone's like, why didn't anyone else see that? Well, that's why you're the leader. And so the best way for you to be able to do this is, and with AI warning us that fake news is just going to multiply through the election season here in the United States, this means ever more the only thing we can trust is our own eyes and ears and senses on the situation, both in the field with the customers and there with your employees. What you love with Elon is he doesn't really have a home. He just packs up, moves his desk to that area, and just hangs out till, with the team, daily huddles. Everything's driven by daily huddles in that company. They figure stuff out. And so anyway, Andy, always an honor to spend some time with your tribe.
Great to see you, brother. We did put in the chat the link to the Scaling Up event on November the 14th. So please go click on that if you're interested in learning more. Verne said
free. It's free.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of education out there. It's right in front of us. We just have to go get it. And as Verne said, that's our jobs. Like, part of our role is to get better every day, and little pieces of knowledge and nuggets. I've been talking a lot lately too about this exact same thing with, just go call your own phone number. Just go to your own website. Just go fill out your own form. Like, the customer experience, go put yourself in the place of the other person that's receiving your information and just read it. See if you can find ways to improve it. It feels like an obsession, to your point, but man, it's just needed now more than ever. So Verne, we greatly appreciate everything you've done for us over the years. We have a thing called Petra Forum groups, which is small. We have it for sales and marketing and tech and different parts of the organization, where we put 8 to 10 to 12 people from that particular role on a Zoom call once a month, and they share best practices. So this concept of, hey, you don't have to go learn it all on your own. Somebody else is actually doing it, to speed up your learning from somebody else being highly, highly important. So encourage people to go do this. You created forums inside of EO, so you know the power of this peer learning. It's all about that right now. So again, Verne, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you very, very soon, my friend.